The story opens with the protagonist, Dai, whose mother has been in a coma for 6 months. Although her eyes are open, she is unconscious after a part of her brain was damaged from hitting her head, and Dai knows the person responsible is Jeff Kim, the very same man who now takes care of him every day. In a hall, Jeff Kim orders a soiled Dai to stay still before leaping into the air and viciously kicking him in the groin. Dai screams in agony, his face turning pale. Jeff Kim calls it a perfect kick and follows up with another one to the stomach, as a crowd of onlookers comments on the display. Every night, Dai prays for his mother to wake up and confirm that Jeff Kim was her attacker. Back in the hall, Jeff Kim smirks at the badly beaten Dai and orders him to get up for one more kick. Dai's legs shake uncontrollably as the crowd mocks him for soiling himself again, and he lies on the ground, thinking that his only hope to escape this living hell is for his mother to wake up. The story then flashes back 6 months to the Wutown development area, where protest banners hang everywhere. Inside the Mary Diner shop, a woman named Mary stands frozen, her whole body shaking with hesitation. As Mary hesitates, the thugs robbing her diner grow impatient. One man steals money from the shop, and Jeff Kim holds the full cash bucket, remarking on their jackpot. Mary tries to stop him, but another thug shoves her, and she falls, hitting her head hard on the corner of a shelf, and blood begins to pool around her. The thugs panic and run, shouting for everyone to get out. Hidden behind a wall, a shaking Dai witnesses the entire event. As night falls, he finally gathers the courage to enter the diner and finds his mother, Mary, lying injured. He knows who did this but is too scared of retaliation, so he buries the truth, a decision that leads to his daily torment. 6 months later, as he is being beaten up, Dai thinks he is a piece of shit who does not deserve to be his mom's son. He whispers for Jeff to bring her back and manages to pull himself up, repeating the demand. The crowd overhears him, and rumors begin to spread that his mother is in a coma after a burglar attack. Jeff Kim hears the speculation and clenches his teeth in anger. Fueled by despair, Dai suddenly lunges at him, shouting for him to bring his poor mom back. An angry Jeff reacts, and after a clash, Dai falls to the ground. Jeff claims he fell on his own but worries internally, wondering if Dai's words were just a delirious slip or if he truly knows the secret of what happened. A stunned, fearful silence falls over the room as everyone tries to process what just happened. One of the onlookers nervously asks why Dai would tell Jeff Kim to bring his mom back, but no one has an answer. The fragile quiet is shattered by Jeff Kim's explosive rage. He bellows at them to shut up and clean the mess, his voice laced with menace as he threatens to kill them if the filth is still there when he returns. He slams the door behind him, leaving Dai crumpled on the floor amidst the stench and the hushed, resentful whispers of the others, who complain about his constant orders. Alone in the washroom, a tense Jeff Kim speaks into his phone, convinced that Dai must have seen something on the day of the incident. His conversation is cut short by a harsh voice on the other end, and he grinds his teeth in frustration, muttering that he is not paid enough for this. A cold resolve settles in his eyes as he decides that the problem, Dai, will have to die today. Elsewhere, on a busy street, students on their way to school pass a homeless man sitting against a wall with a small box for donations. They openly mock the foul smell in the air, with one cruelly joking about the man's missing foot. A coin clinks into his box, and he looks up to see a girl standing over him. She tells him to take the 50 cents and find a better spot by the ocean, explaining that students are broke. Her words are cut off by a sudden, violent interruption as Dai is thrown into the middle of the sidewalk, beaten and bruised once again by Jeff Kim and his subordinates. Jeff Kim grinds his foot onto Dai's head, seething about his attempt to run away. In a shocking act of defiance, the girl steps forward and slaps Jeff Kim hard across the face. Stunned, he turns to her, his eyes burning with rage. She boldly tells him and his crew to stop, warning them that they are being watched and that in the age of social media, they will be in prison before they know it. Her confidence crumbles, however, as she turns to look and sees the street is suddenly empty, with everyone, including the homeless man, having vanished. A cruel laugh escapes Jeff Kim as he draws back his fist to punch her. A spray of blood erupts, but it is not from the girl. A 50-cent coin is now embedded between Jeff Kim's knuckles, and he screams in pain. In that single moment of chaos, Dai, the one who threw the coin with impossible speed and accuracy, scrambles to his feet and runs, disappearing into the city as a furious Jeff Kim clutches his bleeding hand, his face a mask of pure, murderous rage. As Jeff Kim's subordinates rush forward to chase the fleeing Dai, the girl reacts with surprising speed, extending her leg to trip the men and sending them sprawling to the ground. She taunts the stunned Jeff Kim, remarking on the 50-cent coin now painfully embedded between his knuckles and wondering aloud if the mysterious homeless man was the one responsible for the incredible feat. Meanwhile, Dai runs for his life through the city streets, his swollen face throbbing with every desperate step, his mind focused on a single, frantic thought: he must get to his mother's caregiver. His phone suddenly buzzes, and he answers, but the words on the other end of the line are like a knife to the heart, delivering news that shatters his world into a million silent pieces. His mother is gone. The funeral is a quiet, desolate affair, a small, empty room that solidifies his new and terrible status as an orphan. His solitude, however, is cruelly broken not by a mourner, but by the very monster who killed his mother. Jeff Kim arrives with his associate, orders the door to be locked, and then proceeds to beat Dai without a shred of mercy, his fists and feet turning the sacred space into another circle of hell. Left bleeding and broken on the cold floor, Dai believes his last hope has been extinguished. Overcome with a grief so profound it eclipses all physical pain, he takes a blade to his wrist, the sharp sting a final, grim comfort as he waits for death to claim him. Later, the same homeless man from the street wanders aimlessly until he finds himself outside the Old Mary's diner, drawn by a faint sound that cuts through the night's quiet. He peers inside and is met with a horrifying sight. He finds Dai, barely conscious and shaking uncontrollably, the floor slick with his blood, whispering over and over that he will kill the one who murdered his mom. The homeless man removes his glasses, and as he looks at the broken boy, a strange and knowing light shines in his eyes. A year later, the scene is transformed into one of brutal, poetic justice. In the middle of a heavy downpour, a figure in a red hood stands unmoving, a specter of vengeance, over a kneeling and bloody Jeff Kim. A flash of lightning illuminates the man's face, revealing it is Dai, his expression now cold and hard. He looks down at his mother's murderer and declares that Jeff will die today, and so will everyone else who was involved. A cornered Jeff tries a desperate move, suddenly opening his umbrella directly in Dai's face to block his view. He drops the umbrella and immediately runs for his life, shoving his way through the bewildered crowds and shouting for people to get out of the way. Dai gives chase without hesitation. The pursuit ends in a narrow, dark alleyway where a panting Jeff finally stops, believing he has reached a safe hiding place. He smirks as his friends emerge from the shadows, surrounding Dai with rods and other weapons in hand. They mock Dai, questioning what kind of psycho he is. Feeling confident again, Jeff wipes the blood from his mouth and tells his friends that Dai is just a dog he used to own, a pathetic mongrel who would shit and piss himself out of fear. He taunts Dai, asking if he is going to soil his pants for his old owner again today. The only answer is the sound of the heavy rain, which is suddenly broken by the sharp crack of a wooden wall as Dai sends one of the men flying through it with a single, brutal strike. Another man armed with a rod rushes forward, but Dai dodges the attack and slams him violently to the wet ground. A stunned Jeff stumbles backward, unable to understand how Dai has become so strong. Dai's eyes burn with cold fury as he states that today is the anniversary of his mom's death, and today, Jeff is going to die. Two men attack him at once, but Dai fights them off with vicious, practiced efficiency. One of the men manages to grab hold of his arm, but as the other moves in for an attack, Dai kicks him squarely in the chest and then uses his free head to deliver a sickening head to the man holding him, breaking his nose. Dai goes wild, relentlessly beating the man on the ground as his anger takes over. Just as his victory seems certain, his vision blurs, and blood suddenly drips from his forehead. He has been struck from behind with the metal rod. The heavy rod connects with Dai's head, and the person holding it is none other than Jeff. He sneers, calling him a mongrel, and the single word sends Dai's mind reeling, back to a memory of ultimate humiliation. He is in his old classroom, completely naked, his hands feebly trying to cover himself as his classmates erupt in laughter. Jeff stands before him, spitting on him and ordering him to stand at attention for the country's Liberation Day. A terrified Dai pleads with him to stop, but Jeff just mocks him, demanding a hurrah for their country's independence. As Dai looks up, he instinctively raises his hands to salute, exposing himself completely. Jeff smirks and spits in his face again, calling him a dumbass. The raw, burning shame of that moment fuels a fire within him, just as Jeff raises the rod again in the present, warning him to stop giving him that look. The blow never lands. The memory of his fear is suddenly replaced by a montage of pure rage and grief. He sees himself as a terrified child, hiding behind a wall and listening to the panicked shouts of the 3 men who had just attacked his mother, the 3 men who had killed her. He sees Jeff Kim. His mind then flashes to another, darker memory, the day of his mother's funeral. He remembers Jeff arriving, beating him, and then callously approaching his mother's casket. He remembers pleading for him to stop, to not do anything to her, but Jeff just smiled and did something terrible, a final desecration that Dai was powerless to prevent. He could not protect his mom when she was alive, and he could not protect her even when she was dead. Back in the alley, the rod that was about to crash down on his skull is stopped cold. Dai's hand has shot up, catching the weapon just inches from his face. A stunned Jeff looks at his friend, thinking he was already unconscious. Dai looks up, his eyes no longer filled with the fear of a mongrel, but with the cold resolve of a hunter, and he states that he is not going to disappoint his mom anymore. Jeff asks what he is talking about, and if he has gone crazy from the head injury. In response, Dai rips the rod from Jeff's grasp and swings it back at him in a vicious arc. Jeff dodges, but the metal rod slices through his ear, and he screams in pain. As more of Jeff's men close in, Dai becomes a whirlwind of violence. He uses the rod to distract one man before running in and delivering a powerful punch to his abdomen. He ignores a charging Jeff, instead throwing a devastating kick at another opponent, his movements now precise and deadly, fueled by a year of silent, burning hatred. As the man collapses to the ground, a stunned Jeff is left to wonder what is happening. Dai slowly turns toward him, a cold and dangerous look in his eyes, and says that he is not happy with Jeff's smiling teeth. A confused Jeff asks what he is talking about, and Dai takes a step closer, saying he is going to take them out. Before Jeff can even process the threat, Dai delivers a single, devastating punch to his mouth, shattering his teeth and sending them flying like broken confetti. The sound of the impact echoes through the alley as Jeff is thrown backward. He coughs, spitting a mouthful of blood and a broken tooth onto the grimy pavement. He picks up the bloody fragment, a twisted smirk forming on his face. He tells Dai he should not have underestimated him, boasting that he is a national champion and that he will simply replace his broken teeth with pure gold, which will give him an excuse to beat up Dai every day. Dai calmly replies that Jeff will be very busy then, because he will need to replace every single one of them. Enraged, Jeff calls Dai a loser from the gutter who thinks he is a hotshot, but Dai coolly retorts that Jeff is the one who is misunderstanding, stating that he is the one who has come down to the nasty gutter where Jeff resides. Just as Jeff screams at him to shut up, one of his men jumps on Dai's back, wrapping his arms around his neck in a tight chokehold. Jeff grabs the fallen metal rod, his confidence restored. He cruelly taunts Dai, asking if another hit to the head will make him forget how to talk, just like his mother did. He calls him a dumbass child from a dumbass mom and says he can now go hold hands with her in death. As Jeff raises the rod for the final blow, however, an immense and terrifying power suddenly erupts from Dai. The man holding him in the chokehold feels the surge, wondering where all this strength is coming from. Jeff's swing misses its intended mark and instead crashes down on his own subordinate's head. Dai then grabs the dazed man, twists him around with incredible force, and throws him directly at Jeff, sending both of them crashing to the ground. A sore and confused Jeff mutters what just happened as Dai stands over him. Still arrogant, Jeff looks up and calls him a mongrel, a word that earns him another vicious punch to the face. As blood pours from Jeff's head, Dai grabs him and demands he repeat what he said about his mother. A defiant Jeff just laughs and calls her a dumbass again. This single word unleashes all of Dai's pent-up fury, and he begins to punch him again and again, a relentless storm of blows with no end in sight. The rain pours heavily as Dai delivers a relentless barrage of punches, his hands a blur of motion against Jeff's face. The once arrogant bully is now a broken mess, so terrified that he wets and soils himself on the grimy alley floor. Dai sits astride his beaten foe, the blood mixing with the rainwater, and raises the metal rod for the final, killing blow. A desperate Jeff pleads for his life, his words a pathetic whimper, before he finally screams a name, Lucas Choi, claiming he was the one who told him to do everything. The scene then shifts to a judo dojo, where a man named Lucas is shown to be a brutal instructor, violently slapping a student named Shido repeatedly. After the session, his students reveal his true nature as they complain amongst themselves, stating that he just uses the dojo as an excuse to beat them up and extort money from underclassmen. Lucas collects his envelope of cash and walks through a quiet forest toward a small wooden hut, a bag of groceries on his shoulder. His journey is cut short when he suddenly stops, sensing he is not alone. He calls out into the trees, telling the unseen person to come out. A figure emerges from the bushes with his hands raised in surrender, and it is a badly beaten Jeff, his face a swollen mess of bruises and broken teeth. He comments on how sharp Lucas is for detecting his presence and mockingly asks if the scary-looking wooden hut is where Lucas lives, calling it worse than a dog pound. Lucas, however, is not in the mood for games. His expression remains stoic as he looks past Jeff's ruined face to the silent and intense figure standing behind him, and he asks if the diner kid, Dai, is responsible for the injuries. Lucas states calmly that he knew a day like this would come and that they had to meet eventually. A tense Dai steps forward and asks if Lucas was the one who did that to his mom. Lucas simply replies with a cryptic maybe. The single word is enough to unleash all of Dai's pent-up fury. He leaps forward and throws a powerful kick aimed directly at Lucas's head, but Lucas calmly turns, using his heavy bag of groceries to block the attack with a dull thud. The tense standoff is suddenly broken by the cheerful voice of a little girl, who runs out of the hut with a bright smile, excited to see Lucas and the can of Spam he has brought for dinner. Completely oblivious to the dangerous atmosphere, she happily invites Dai and Jeff to eat with them, but her smile fades as she points at Jeff and asks if he can leave because he looks weird. Her innocent comment is followed by the cries of another child from inside the hut, a little boy named Noah, who is hungry and wants his food. The girl tugs on Lucas's shirt, saying Noah has not eaten all day and insists they all have dinner together as a family. Dai, however, ignores the heartfelt invitation. He states that they need to visit an elementary school by the mountain, and without another word, he and a reluctant Jeff turn to leave. The little girl is left standing there, her bright mood replaced with sadness as she calls after them, pleading for them to please visit again and eat with them next time. Later that night, after the children are peacefully asleep inside the simple hut, Lucas puts on his dark hoodie and steps back out into the moonless forest. He says to himself that he has no choice, his eyes narrowing as he looks out into the trees, sensing that something smells deeply and dangerously fishy. As Dai and Jeff wait in the tense silence, Dai asks what happened to Lucas. A resentful Jeff explains his tragic backstory, telling Dai that Lucas's parents abandoned him and his two younger siblings, leaving them buried under a mountain of debt. He calls Lucas stupid for choosing the hard life of raising them himself instead of simply sending them to foster care. The scene then shifts to Lucas descending a set of stairs, where he is confronted by a mysterious man with glasses. The man taunts him, asking what brings him here and coldly warning him to stop digging into something that ended a year ago. Lucas tells him to stay out of his sight, but the man grabs his hand in a vice-like grip, squeezing it, and saying that it does not look good for him to be digging up the past. Lucas clenches his teeth and breaks free from the man's hold, insisting he is just taking responsibility for his past actions. At that moment, the man's true, sinister threat is revealed. Lucas's two happy younger siblings, his brother Noah holding a lollipop and his sister excitedly talking about pizza, suddenly appear nearby, having been given treats by the man's associates. A wave of terror washes over Lucas. The man steps closer, pulls down Lucas's hood, and his voice becomes a venomous whisper as he says he is rooting for him, making it chillingly clear that the children are now his leverage. The story returns to the present, with Jeff finishing his tale and complaining that the once innocent Lucas is the one who dragged him into this entire mess. He looks over at Dai and is unnerved to see that he has remained completely stoic and expressionless throughout the entire story, showing no reaction at all. The tense quiet is suddenly shattered as Lucas himself slams into the ground nearby, seemingly out of nowhere, his body consumed by an unnatural and terrifying rage. A shocked Jeff says this is not like him at all, as this is a side of Lucas he has never seen before. Lucas's eyes are bloodshot and red, and he tears his own clothes, letting out an inhuman scream as he shouts for them to come at him. As if hypnotized by some unseen force, he then sprints directly at Dai. Seeing the possessed man charging at him, Dai calmly catches the movement, his own expression unreadable as he raises his fist, preparing to meet the attack head-on. Dai lands a powerful punch on Lucas's bald head. A furious Lucas grabs Dai by the shirt, lifts him effortlessly into the air, and shouts at him to just die. Realizing he cannot overpower the larger man, Dai uses his momentum to execute a perfect backflip, using the maneuver to throw Lucas to the ground instead. As Lucas gets up, both he and a watching Jeff are impressed, with Lucas noting that now he understands why Jeff's face is so messed up. An annoyed Jeff just gives him the middle finger. Lucas exhales, admitting it will be harder to kill Dai than he thought, but vows to kill him no matter what. He launches a series of powerful attacks, but Dai dodges each one, thinking it will be dangerous if Lucas gets a hold of him. In the middle of his evasive maneuvers, Dai lands a quick punch on Lucas's nose, but he is shocked to see that the blow does not even make him flinch. Dai realizes he needs to use short, rapid blows against such a durable opponent. As Lucas pauses to take a breath, Dai's eyes glow with red anger, and he unleashes a flurry of punches to Lucas's eye, ear, and chin, before dropping the bomb with a devastating uppercut. The blow is insane, but just as it seems Dai has the upper hand, an arm suddenly wraps around his face from behind, and a voice says he is caught. It is Lucas himself, but Dai has no idea how he got behind him so quickly. Lucas holds him tight and tells the diner boy to stop messing with him. Lucas raises Dai's head high before brutally slamming it onto the hard ground, his voice cold and final as he tells him that this is the end and that he should forget everything that has happened and just give up on his quest for revenge. Lying broken and defeated, the taste of dirt and blood filling his mouth, Dai's mind is thrown back into a painful and pivotal memory, a time when he faced this exact same choice before. The flashback takes him to a younger, weaker version of himself, being relentlessly beaten in a dark, grimy alley by a group of menacing men in black coats. They mock him, calling him a fucking loser and a dumbass, questioning why he keeps coming back for more every single day. As he lies unconscious, they deliver a final warning, telling the kid to stay out of town or they will kill him next time. After they leave, he lies broken on the cold pavement until the mysterious homeless man approaches. A desperate and defeated Dai looks up at him, his voice barely a whisper as he says he cannot do this anymore and that he wants to stop. The man looks down at him without pity, stating that he can give up if he wants to and that with this final failure, the debt he owed to Dai's mother has now been fully repaid. The word debt confuses Dai, his eyes watering with a mixture of pain and curiosity. The homeless man explains that Dai's mother did something truly great for him, but he is disappointed to see that her son is just a stupid kid who cannot do anything to honor her memory in return. He then throws a knife that clatters at Dai's feet, the cold steel a stark contrast to the filth of the alley. The man tells him it is the last thing he can do for the stupid son, a tool that might keep him from getting beaten up so badly, but he ends with a final, cruel taunt, saying he knows Dai does not have the courage to actually use it. The scene then shifts again to the men in black coats as they relax and smoke, only to be interrupted by the sight of Dai stepping out of the shadows to confront them once more. They mock him for coming back for another beating, but their laughter dies in their throats when they see the cold, hard glint of the knife in his hands. Although his entire body is trembling with a fear so intense it threatens to consume him, Dai holds the blade tightly, his mind a chaotic storm as he tells himself over and over that he can do this, that he can stab them, that he must. The men laugh at Dai, and one of them opens his coat, mockingly daring him to attack. A trembling Dai steps forward, but he hesitates, the tip of his knife barely touching the man's thigh as he whispers that he cannot do it. The leader calls him a loser and slaps him hard across the face. The impact causes Dai's hand to slip, and the knife accidentally scratches the man's cheek. The man touches the cut, licks the blood from his finger, and declares that it is his turn now. He and his men beat Dai relentlessly until he is a broken mess on the ground, feeling nothing but a dull ache. Kneeling over him, the leader takes out his own, better knife, intending to do the same thing to Dai. Ready to die, Dai welcomes the end, thinking he will finally be able to see his mom again. He imagines her standing before him, smiling, but when she turns around in his vision, her face is a horrifying mask of blood. The gruesome image shatters something inside him. Just as the man's blade is about to plunge into his throat, Dai's hand shoots up, grabbing the man's wrist with inhuman strength. He twists the arm, turns the weapon back on its owner, and plunges the knife deep into the man's neck, a different and terrifying light now burning in Dai's eyes. The flashback ends, returning to the present where a bloodied Lucas spits on the ground. He looks at Dai with a mixture of fear and disgust and tells the others to just take him away, saying he does not want to see him again. As Jeff and Lucas turn to leave, Dai struggles to his feet, his voice firm as he says he cannot let them go like this. A dismissive Lucas tells him the end will always be the same, and that Dai cannot beat him, but a determined Dai replies that he is not going to give up. With that, the two men dash toward each other, their fight erupting in the rain-soaked alley. Dai unleashes a flurry of attacks, managing to land a solid blow that sends the giant Lucas to his knees. Dai declares that from now on, he is going to show him what hell feels like. But the larger man is no ordinary fighter. He gets back to his feet, a chilling indifference on his face, and begins to advance on Dai. Dai clenches his teeth, a new strategy forming in his mind. He knows that to control the larger man, he needs to bring him down to his eye level, and there is only one way to do that. He must focus his attack on his feet, where all his weight is concentrated. As Lucas takes a heavy step forward, Dai executes his plan, delivering a powerful and precise kick to his ankle. The unexpected attack shatters Lucas's balance, and he crashes to the ground with a thunderous thud, shouting in a mixture of pain and disbelief as he asks what Dai has done to him. Dai coldly states that he has put metal shackles on the pig's foot. He then presses his advantage, moving with a speed that seems impossible and appearing behind Lucas to land a brutal punch on his jaw. He feels the bone crack through his knuckles, but to his shock, Lucas is still not defeated. The giant gets up, a cold smile on his face, and says that if this is what hell feels like, then he has been there hundreds of times before. He leaps into the air to deliver a devastating blow, and while Dai tries to block it, the force of the punch still sends him staggering back. He manages to grab Lucas's arm, however, and taunts him, saying his punches are weak now that his foot is messed up. He follows this with a sharp kick to Lucas's cheek, drawing blood. Dai knows he has to focus his attacks on a single weak point. He unleashes a relentless and brutal barrage of punches, each one aimed precisely at the same spot on Lucas's lower chin, again and again, from every direction. The onslaught is too much, and finally, the seemingly invincible Lucas collapses to the ground, unconscious. A disbelieving Jeff watches from the side, unable to understand how the monster has fallen. A defeated Lucas coughs up a mouthful of blood as a relieved Dai stands over him. Lucas weakly says there is no more time and makes a final, desperate plea for Dai to save his siblings, a request that leaves both Dai and Jeff confused. The scene then shifts to the old Mary's diner, where Lucas's younger brother, Noah, and his sister are happily eating food from a bag, watched over by a group of menacing men. One of the men takes a phone call, and after he hangs up, his expression turns cruel. He sits down and tells the children that their brother has gone somewhere far away. The kid's eyes widen in shock as the man continues his psychological assault. He tells them Lucas left because he hated taking care of them, just like their parents did. He calls them dirty and stinky and delivers a final, monstrous lie, saying Lucas told him to tell them that if they disappeared from the world, he would come back. As the children begin to cry, the door to the diner creaks open, and the mysterious homeless man steps inside. The cruel man stands up, tells the homeless bastard to get out, and pokes him in the forehead. A sickening crack echoes through the room as the man's fingers are suddenly twisted and broken. The homeless man's voice is calm but firm as he tells the remaining men that he will let them live if they leave right now. The narrative then flashes back, revealing the truth of the moments after the fight. Lucas was not speaking to Jeff, but was pleading directly with Dai, begging him to save his siblings and telling him they were at the diner. In the present, this memory fuels Dai's frantic run through the heavily pouring rain. He pushes himself harder, his mind racing as he curses the rain for slowing him down when every second counts. He finally arrives at the Mary's diner, only to find the gate has been violently broken off its hinges. A terrible feeling washes over him as he runs forward and throws the door open, his eyes widening in absolute shock at the scene that awaits him inside.